What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about Kyle Connor. We all saw the thing that happened, the other night against the Anaheim Ducks, where Ryan Strome came through with a pretty reckless hit. No discipline, by the way, which is super interesting to me, but we're not talking about that today. We're thinking about, if Kyle Connor is out long-term, and, let's assume that he is. It looked really bad. Let's say, at least a month, which I'm sure it will be. What will the Jets be doing? Is it going to be, next man up mentality, or are they going to be, maybe looking at the trade market? If the Jets were looking to fix that hole internally, I mean, you could try Brad Lambert and Nikita Chibrikov. I don't think that the Jets are going to necessarily look at this as an option right now. Both those players are incredibly young. They're doing very well in the AHL, and it's their first season, in North America playing hockey. So I think that they will likely stay down with the Moose, and I think that that's probably the right call as of right now. As much fun as having Brad Lambert in the top 6 would be, I don't think that his opportunity is going to be right now. Now, that opens the door to, will the Jets make a trade? And I think it's possible. I don't think that they're going to panic or anything yet. I mean, probably going to have a couple games to see where the lineup's at and, what they can do without Kyle Connor. But if they do look to make a trade, I do think that there are, quite a few options available as of right now. And one of those options is adding Jakub Vrana, from the St. Louis Blues, a division rival, but this is a guy that has been struggling this season. Just 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points this year, has not been getting a ton of ice time as, he's kind of just fallen down the lineup, averaging about, 12 minutes a night roughly, and he just has not been the same player that we saw from a season ago. If you remember last year, he got traded from Detroit to St. Louis, and in 20 games with St. Louis, he put up 10 goals. He was very electric. It looked like we had the old Jakub Vrana back, but this year, just not able to put it together in St. Louis. Now, I'm not saying that he's like this big fix and he's going to come in and, totally cover for Kyle Connor and he's just going to be this great player, anything like that. But I'm saying it might be a nice tie over until Kyle Connor is back. I think that he would fit, kind of the same role as what Kyle does. I don't think it would be too different. I mean, obviously, the talent level is night and day from Connor to Vrana, but Vrana does play kind of the same way. He doesn't, have the strongest defensive game ever, but he does know how to score goals. It's been evident throughout his career that he is, no stranger to doing that. I think that he'd be fine. I think that he'd be a really good fit for the Jets. I think that he could play in the top 6 with players such as, Scheifele, Ehlers. I think that he could be playing pretty well with Cole Perfetti. I think those two might be able to find some chemistry together. I don't know, I just feel like that would be a fit. He was rumored to be, about to go on waivers, but then actually didn't get put on waivers, and it kind of seemed like, he was going to be traded, and he's kind of in limbo right now. But, if there is trade talks going down, I could definitely see the Jets wanting to go after Jakub Vrana, even if he's just for a little while, and then they throw him on waivers in the future. I think that it's worth a shot. Why not? Vrana only has 1 year left on his contract at $2.6 million, as the Red Wings are actually eating the other half of that contract, so it is pretty digestible, and it's even more digestible if the Jets need to put Kyle Connor on LTIR, which I do assume that they will do at some point once we find out, how the MRI comes back for him, but it's probably going to be bad news. But now we're going to be talking about a player with a little bit more star power and maybe a little bit more expensive, and that's going to be Andrei Kuzmenko from the Vancouver Canucks. Last year, this was a guy that almost scored 40 goals, and this year he's been struggling a little bit. I mean, 4 goals and 11 assists isn't, so bad, but, compared to last year, you would like to see the goal production be a little bit higher, especially through 25 games. However, I do think that this is a guy that, is available right now. I mean, Jim Rutherford basically said, hey, everybody line up, make the best offer for Andrei Kuzmenko. I don't necessarily think he's in, a super big hurry to get rid of him or anything, but it does seem like, hey, like, we want to clear some cap room here, and Andrei Kuzmenko is available. So if he is available, I do wonder if the Jets start kicking some tires. And, I can definitely see the Jets making, their calls and doing their homework on Andrei Kuzmenko, but a lot of things would have to go right for the Jets. I mean, first of all, he makes $5.5 million, and he's got a contract going into next season, but the big problem here is that he's a 12-team no-trade list, and that does suck because the Jets are probably on there, right? Not a lot of athletes are, super stoked to be coming to Winnipeg, and I can't imagine that Kuzmenko coming from Russia is, super duper excited to come here. Don't really have any Russians in the organization except for Chibrikov, Zhilkin, and Kuzmin, but those guys are all with the Moose. So, to acquire Andrei Kuzmenko, the Jets would have to try to find a way to clear some cap. They would have to get him to, you know, waive his no-trade clause to come to Winnipeg, and I mean, hey, if he wants to win, I think the Jets have a pretty solid roster. I think that it wouldn't be the worst move in the world. But one thing that would have to happen, again, that I've talked about already, is the cap situation. They would probably have to dump Nate Schmidt, probably have to figure that out first, and I just don't see the Jets really going through all of this just to replace Kyle Connor for a couple of months. I do think that he'd be a great player to have, you know, for this season and beyond. However, I just don't really see, you know, logistically this working out, especially with the no move clause. I think that's the biggest hurdle sitting in Winnipeg's way, and I just don't really see a world where the Jets aren't on it, because they're on 99% of them. Moving on from Kuzmenko, we do have a really interesting situation, as Kevin Cheveldayoff actually stayed behind after the Jets beat Colorado to watch the game the next day between the Flyers and the Colorado Avalanche, where he was watching and scouting the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers, you know, they're in a pretty good spot at the moment. I don't really think that they're going to be staying as high in the standings as they are. I think that they will start to fall off, but they do have some intriguing pieces that all teams around the league are going to be looking for, and the Jets are one of those teams. At first, you know, a lot of people were thinking they're looking at Sean Walker. I know a couple people were, you know, kind of thinking about Travis Sanheim again. I do think that that ship has sailed. I don't think the Jets are, you know, super interested in Sanheim, especially with 8 years at $6.2 million being attached to his name. And he does have a no move. I know he's from Manitoba. I just don't see Sanheim as being the guy that Winnipeg is looking at. I do think that Sean Walker, who has a very digestible cap hit and maybe an easier price, would be a great player to move in. Now, that's a defenseman. Maybe we'll save that, you know, defenseman talk for another video. But if we're looking to replace, you know, Kyle Connor, who do the Flyers have? And there's one player that I do wonder about on the Flyers. If they do start to really fall out of it, do they consider moving Travis Konechny? Just like Kuzmenko, Konechny only has one more year after this year on his deal, and look, it's a very digestible contract for the caliber of player that he is. Last year in Philly, in 60 games, he put up 61 points. The guy was over a point per game and he had 31 goals. He was dynamite. This year, he's doing the same thing. He's a goal scorer. He's very much like Kyle Connor. Now, this isn't a move that's going to be happening soon. I think that if this does happen, it would have to go down closer to the trade deadline. You know, maybe if the Flyers start to fall out of it a little bit in the playoff race. But he makes $5.5 million. He does not have a no-trade clause, which is huge, and that is where Winnipeg has to pounce. I think that this should be one of Winnipeg's, maybe their biggest fish at the trade deadline, one of their biggest targets. Adding Konechny would be massive. I can't even explain, you know, with words how big a move like that could be. A legit star added to a team that already has, you know, Mark Scheifele, Nikolai Ehlers, Cole Perfetti, Gabe Vilardi, Kyle Connor up front, and now you add Konechny? Are you kidding me? That would be such a dynamite add by the Jets, and, you know, I don't know if you try to add Sean Walker in there too to solidify the D. I think that would absolutely be dynamite. You'd have to put together a pretty big package, I think, but I think that it would totally be worth it. And if the Jets are serious about contending, I think Travis Konechny should be at the top of their board in terms of trade targets. But these are just some of the names that came to mind when I thought about, you know, how could the Jets potentially replace Kyle Connor if he is out long-term? Who could they add to this team just in general to make the team better? But I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you guys think about this list, about the players that I brought up. I want to hear all about it down below, so definitely don't forget to leave a comment. But yeah, guys, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Go Jets, go! Bye-bye.